My parents secretly plotted for months to force me to forgive my brother for sleeping with my fiancée, ambushing me at family gatherings to play happy family. So I punched my dad in the face, completely changed my legal name, and forwarded a single email that burned their entire delusional lives to the ground. Hey Reddit, I need to get this out, because looking back, it feels like I survived a psychological war zone. Before I dig into the absolute mess that was my life, let me give you some backstory. Growing up in a suburb just outside of Pittsburgh, I always thought my family was my rock. We weren't the type of people to leave things unsaid or go months without speaking. My brother Caleb and I were close in that highly competitive, two boys under one roof kind of way. He was a year younger than me, and we had always been compared to each other. Caleb was the charming, free-spirited golden boy who could talk his way out of a murder charge, while I was the reliable one with a plan. Our sister Chloe was the baby, basically our mom's shadow, always soaking up every ounce of attention she could get. Our parents, Brenda and Tom, were your typical blue-collar, Midwest-adjacent parents. Mom ran the household with an absolute iron will, manipulating situations so she always looked like the perfect matriarch. Dad was the passive enabler, the type to crack jokes, avoid conflict at all costs, and grill steaks like it was a competitive sport. I thought I had it all figured out, a stable family, siblings I could trust with my life, and a fiancé who I genuinely believed was my soulmate. Jessica came into my life during a group project in my junior year at Penn State. She had this magnetic, undeniable energy about her that made you want to be in her orbit. She was ambitious, aggressively confident, and ridiculously attractive. I fell for her hard and fast. By the end of the semester, we were inseparable. It felt like a whirlwind, but I didn't question it because it seemed flawless. I imagined our entire future together, the careers, the house, the kids, the dogs, everything. One crisp November evening, I proposed to her. It wasn't some massive, viral grand gesture, just the two of us at our favorite overlook in the city. She cried, she said yes, and we immediately started planning our wedding for the following summer. I had even drained a significant portion of my savings to put down deposits on a venue and a caterer. It felt like the beginning of the life I'd always dreamed of. And then, it all spectacularly imploded. In late March, I had a randomly slow Friday at my engineering firm. My boss let me out at 2 p.m. I decided to surprise Jessica with her favorite sushi takeout and spend the evening together. I drove home, completely oblivious to the fact that my life was about to end. When I walked into our apartment, everything felt off. The air was thick. Her shoes were kicked off by the door, but the place was eerily quiet, save for faint, muffled laughter coming from our bedroom. My stomach tightened. A primal instinct flared up, warning me that something was terribly wrong. I brushed it off, trying to convince myself she was just watching a video or on the phone with her sister. I walked down the hall. I pushed open the bedroom door. My world shattered into a million pieces. There they were, Jessica and Caleb, tangled up in my bed. Jessica was wearing the oversized vintage band t-shirt I had bought her for our anniversary. It wasn't hard to put two and two together. They froze. Both of them looked like deer caught in the headlights of an oncoming semi-truck. It's funny how silence can be so deafening. The air in the room felt heavy, suffocating, and rancid. I could literally hear the blood rushing in my ears. Caleb, my own flesh and blood, had the sheer audacity to break the silence with, "Ryan, man, it's not what it looks like." I stared at him, almost laughing at the profound ridiculousness of that cliché. Jessica didn't say a single word. She just frantically scrambled to cover herself with my duvet, as if a layer of cotton could erase what was permanently burned into my retinas. I didn't yell, I didn't scream or throw punches. What was the point? The evidence of my ruined life was right in front of me. I looked at Jessica, feeling completely hollowed out, and said, "Pack your shit and get out." My voice was calm, dead, even. I wasn't about to give them the satisfaction of seeing me lose my mind. Caleb tried to speak again, stammering something about how it just happened, but I cut him off instantly. "You're dead to me." I wasn't interested in hearing his pathetic excuses or fake remorse. There is no "it just happened" when it comes to driving to your brother's apartment, undressing, and sleeping with his fiancée in his bed. I turned around and walked out. I didn't wait for an explanation. I grabbed my keys, left the $60 worth of sushi on the kitchen counter, and drove to a buddy's house. That night, as I stared blankly at my friend's ceiling, the reality sunk its claws into me. My fiancée, the woman I was supposed to marry in 4 months, and my brother, the guy I shared a bunk bed with for a decade, had betrayed me in the most humiliating way possible. It wasn't just the physical cheating, it was the fact that they both actively, maliciously chose to destroy my life. The next day, while I was at work, Jessica moved her things out of the apartment. When I came home, the place felt entirely hollow. Sitting on the kitchen counter, right where we used to keep a framed photo of our engagement, was a handwritten note. It was short, and it made me want to vomit. She wrote that she had fallen in love with Caleb over the past few months and never meant to hurt me. She followed it up with some absolute garbage about hoping I could find it in my heart to forgive them. She had the absolute nerve to finish the note with, "I hope you can still be happy for us one day." Happy for them. I crumpled the note and threw it in the trash. My family found out within a few days. I didn't tell them. I'm guessing Caleb or Jessica spun the narrative to get ahead of the fallout. My mom, Brenda, called me immediately. She played the part of the outraged mother perfectly. She kept saying how she couldn't believe her own son would do this, screaming, "He's not welcome in this house," over and over. At first, it felt good to have her on my side, but I wasn't naive. My mom's loyalty has always been conditional. She is a master of sweeping massive family traumas under the rug just to maintain the illusion of a perfect family portrait. I knew it was only a matter of time before she started defending her golden boy. My dad, Tom, was a completely different story. When I finally answered his call, he just sighed heavily into the receiver. "Well, Ryan, I guess things like this happen sometimes. You guys are young." I almost dropped the phone. He wasn't angry. He wasn't disgusted. He treated it like Caleb had accidentally backed his car into my mailbox, not nuked my relationship and my sanity. My sister Chloe called to check on me, saying she couldn't believe what they did, but there was a distinct hesitation in her voice. She was playing both sides, terrified of upsetting Mom. For weeks, I ghosted them. I threw myself entirely into my work. My boss, Marcus, noticed I was staying at the office until 9 p.m. every night. He pulled me aside and asked what was going on. I gave him the abridged version, a brutal breakup and family betrayal. That's when Marcus threw me a lifeline. He mentioned our firm's Charlotte, North Carolina branch. They needed a project manager. It came with a 20% pay bump and relocation assistance. I didn't even blink. I took it. When I told my parents I was moving 400 miles away, my dad just said, "Good for you, fresh start." My mom, however, acted like I was amputating my own leg. She sobbed, begging me to reconsider. "What about Sunday dinners? What about the holidays? You can't just abandon your family, Ryan." "I'm not abandoning my family," I told her coldly. "I'm leaving Caleb behind." "He's not part of this family anymore," she swore up and down. I didn't believe a word of it. By July, I was living in Charlotte, breathing fresh air, and my gut feeling was proven 100% right. Mom called me casually one Tuesday, dropping the bomb that they had let Caleb move back into their house because his and Jessica's lease fell through and they had nowhere else to go. She acted like it was a minor inconvenience, not inviting the architect of my misery back into her home. I snapped. I told her it was a massive slap in the face. "He's still my son, Ryan. I can't let him be homeless," she cried, immediately launching into her family unity campaign. She went on a tangent about how we all needed to heal, how Caleb was hurting too, and how we needed to move forward. It was blatant code for, "Just forgive him, so I don't have to feel guilty about choosing him over you. If you want unity, stop rewarding the guy who blew up my life," I said, and hung up. Update 1. By September, I was thriving in Charlotte. I had a great apartment, new friends, and the distance from the radioactive wasteland of my family was doing wonders for my mental health. Then, Mom called. It was her 55th birthday coming up, and she relentlessly guilt-tripped me into coming up to Pennsylvania for the weekend. "It's just going to be me, your dad, and Chloe. Please, Ryan. I miss my boy," she pleaded. Against every screaming alarm bell in my head, I agreed. I took the Friday off and drove the long hours up to PA. When I pulled onto my parents' street, my stomach instantly hit the floorboards. Parked right in the driveway, bold as brass, was Caleb's Jeep. My hands gripped the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white. I debated throwing the car in reverse and driving straight back to North Carolina, but I refused to look like a coward. I decided I was going to walk in, call out the bullshit, and leave. I pushed the front door open. Mom practically tackled me with a hug, radiating this manic, forced energy. "Ryan, I'm so glad you're here." I looked past her shoulder into the living room. Sitting on the sofa, holding hands like they were the stars of a Hallmark movie, were Caleb and Jessica. Jessica was actually laughing at a joke my dad had just made. I froze. The sheer disrespect was staggering. "Why are they here?" I asked. My voice dangerously low. Mom grabbed my arm, trying to physically pull me into the room. Let's just all sit down and talk. We're a family. I didn't move. Mom launched into a pre-rehearsed speech about how Caleb and Jessica had made a mistake, but they were in love, and it was time to let go of the anger for the sake of the family. Caleb stood up, looking at me with this pathetic, practiced puppy dog expression. I'm sorry, man. It just happened. I want my brother back. Jessica chimed in from the couch. We never meant to hurt you, Ryan. We really hope you can find peace. I stared at them. The absolute delusion it took to set up an ambush and expect me to just shake hands and play nice was mind-blowing. I leaned forward, looking Caleb dead in the eyes. You are a pathetic, spineless excuse for a man, I said loudly, ensuring my voice carried through the entire house. I turned my glare to Jessica. And you. I hope he cheats on you too, because you absolutely deserve each other. The room went dead silent. Mom gasped and started crying on cue. Dad looked at the floor. I didn't give anyone a chance to respond. I looked at my mother. Enjoy your golden boy. Do not ever contact me again. I walked out, got in my car, and drove 8 hours straight back to Charlotte. As soon as I crossed the state line, I blocked my mom, my dad, Caleb, and Chloe. I purged them from my social media. I was done. Update 2. 4 months went by. It was January, and my life in Charlotte was incredibly peaceful. I had started dating a wonderful woman named Maya. She was kind, brilliant, and deeply respectful of my boundaries. She knew the whole story and never once pushed me to fix things with my toxic bloodline. Then, out of nowhere, I got an Instagram DM from my cousin Leah. I barely knew Leah. We only saw each other at distant family reunions. She messaged me, saying she had just accepted a job in Charlotte and was moving into an apartment downtown. She asked if I could help her unload a few heavy boxes that weekend. I was skeptical, but Leah had never been involved in the family drama. I figured it was harmless. Saturday morning, I pulled into the apartment complex Leah had sent me. I saw a U-Haul parked near the entrance. I parked and walked over. Stepping out of the back of the U-Haul wasn't Leah. It was Caleb. And right behind him was my dad, Tom. My blood ran ice cold. It was another trap. Before I could even turn around, the apartment door opened and out walked my mom. She waved at me with a sickeningly sweet smile. Ryan, wait, she yelled, jogging over. I stood paralyzed with rage. What the hell is this? I demanded. Mom tried to touch my arm. Leah really did need help, but we thought it would be a perfect opportunity for the family to come down and surprise you. We need to fix this, Ryan. Caleb stepped forward, tears literally welling up in his eyes. He looked like he was auditioning for a soap opera. Ryan, please, I'm so sorry. I know I messed up. I just want to fix things. I miss you. It was the exact same script from the birthday party. I didn't say a word. I just glared at him with pure disgust. That's when Dad decided to step in. He walked up to me, puffing his chest out slightly, using that condescending, exasperated tone he used when I was a teenager acting out. Come on, Ryan, Dad sighed. You're holding on to this grudge like a child. It's tearing your mother apart. He apologized. Be the bigger man and get over it. Be the bigger man. He equated my brother sleeping with my fiancée in my own bed to a minor squabble over a borrowed video game. He was demanding I swallow my trauma to make his life easier. When Dad stepped closer and put a heavy hand on my shoulder to physically guide me toward Caleb, I completely snapped. Instinct took over. My fist connected with his jaw before my brain even processed the movement. The crack was loud. Dad stumbled backward, tripping over his own feet, and fell hard onto the asphalt, clutching his face in absolute shock. Caleb jumped back like a coward. Mom shrieked, a blood-curdling scream, and dropped to her knees next to Dad. Ryan, oh my God, are you insane? She sobbed. Caleb muttered, You've gone crazy, man. I looked down at my knuckles, then at the three of them cowering by the U-Haul. I felt zero remorse. If any of you ever come near me again, I will call the police, I said. I walked to my car, got in, and drove away. When I got home, my hands were shaking, but I felt a massive, suffocating weight lift off my chest. I blocked Leah immediately. I didn't care if she was in on it or just a pawn. They were all dead to me. Update 3. A year passed. I got promoted. Maya and I moved in together. Life was genuinely beautiful. We spent Christmas with Maya's family down in Charleston, South Carolina. Her parents were warm, welcoming, and completely drama-free. For the first time in my life, I experienced a holiday that didn't involve walking on eggshells or passive-aggressive remarks. A week after Christmas, a letter arrived at my apartment in Charlotte. The handwriting was unmistakable. It was Mom's. I almost shredded it, but morbid curiosity won. In the letter, she informed me that Caleb and Jessica had officially gotten married in a small courthouse ceremony. She also dropped the bomb that she and Dad were currently separated. She begged me to call her, saying she was lonely and that family is all we have left. I read it, laughed out loud, handed it to Maya to read, and then tossed it into the fireplace. 2 weeks later, I got an email from my sister Chloe to my work email, the only channel I hadn't thought to block her on. Subject, please read. Ryan, I know you hate us, but I thought you should know things are really bad here. Dad is living in a crappy motel. Mom is constantly crying. Caleb and Jessica are drowning in debt because Mom and Dad co-signed a mortgage for them, and Caleb just lost his job. Jessica is miserable. I left my fiancé too. We are all falling apart. Please, Mom just wants to hear your voice. I stared at the screen. Was I supposed to feel bad? They had actively chosen to protect and coddle the two people who ruined my life, and now the consequences of their actions were coming back to bite them. Karma was officially collecting its debts. I deleted the email and blocked her address. But Chloe wasn't done. In June, on a random Saturday morning, I was getting ready to go to the gym when someone knocked on my door. I checked the peephole. It was Chloe. She looked awful. Exhausted, pale, and stressed. I opened the door just a crack. Ryan, please, she cried immediately. I drove all night. I am so sorry. I should have stood up for you. I was a coward. I cut them off too. I haven't spoken to Caleb or Mom in months. Please, can we just get a coffee? Against my better judgment, seeing my little sister crying on my welcome mat cracked my armor just a tiny bit. I agreed to meet her at a diner down the street in an hour. I told Maya, who warned me to keep my guard up. I walked into the diner. Chloe was sitting in a booth in the back, but she wasn't alone. Sitting across from her was my dad. I stopped dead in my tracks. The rage bubbled up instantly. I walked over, ready to flip the table. Dad stood up, looking nervous, rubbing the jaw I had broken a year prior. Ryan, wait. Please, Dad pleaded. I'm sorry. I was wrong. I failed you as a father to protect Caleb, and it ruined my marriage. I just want to apologize. It was the first time I had ever heard him take actual accountability. I sat down on the edge of the booth, not saying a word. I'm sorry, Dad continued. I should have handled things differently. I should have defended you. For a split second, I thought maybe, just maybe, I could have a relationship with my dad and sister. Then, the bell above the diner door jingled. I looked up. Walking through the door was my mother, and trailing right behind her, looking miserable, were Caleb and Jessica. Chloe looked at me, panicking. Ryan, I swear to God I didn't know. Mom must have tracked my phone. Mom rushed over, tears already flowing. Ryan, we followed Chloe. We just want to be a family again. Please, we are all struggling so much without you. I stood up. I didn't yell. I was completely, utterly devoid of emotion toward these people. I looked at my mother. You are a parasite. You are not my family. I looked at Caleb and Jessica, who looked like they hadn't slept in weeks. Enjoy the bed you made. I hear it's getting pretty uncomfortable. I threw a $5 bill on the table for the coffee I didn't order and walked out. I ignored my mom, screaming my name in the parking lot. That was the absolute final straw. Update 4. The final reversal. It's been a year since the diner incident. I am now 28. Maya and I are officially engaged, and she is 4 months pregnant with our first child, a little boy. I am beyond ecstatic. I am going to be the father to him that Tom never was to me. To completely sever the rotting tie to my past, I went through the legal process of changing my last name. I didn't want to pass down a name associated with cowardice and betrayal to my son. I took Maya's last name. Standing in the courthouse and signing that paper was the most liberating moment of my life. But here is the final, mind-blowing twist to this entire saga. A few months ago, I checked a spam folder in an old email account I rarely use. There was an email from Jessica. It was sent at 2 a.m. It was a massive, rambling, desperate essay. She confessed that her marriage to Caleb was a living hell. Caleb had been unemployed for 6 months, blowing their money on crypto and alcohol. But the real kicker? She had caught Caleb sleeping with her best friend in their guest room. She wrote, Ryan, I made the biggest mistake of my life. You were a real man. Caleb is a boy. I am so miserable. My life is ruined. I think about you every single day. I know it's crazy, but is there any chance you could ever forgive me? Could we ever try again? She attached screenshots of Caleb's texts to her best friend as proof of his betrayal, trying to garner my sympathy. I sat there, reading the email, and a slow, dark smile crept across my face. She wanted my sympathy? She wanted me to save her from the monster she helped create? I didn't reply to her. Instead, I saved the email as a PDF. I downloaded all the screenshots of Caleb's cheating. I went to FedEx, printed everything out in high-quality color, and put them into 3 separate envelopes. I mailed one to Caleb. I mailed one to my mom. I mailed one to my dad. All via certified mail, so I would get a notification the exact second they signed for them. 2 days later, the delivery confirmations hit my phone. According to Chloe, who actually Times cut them off and occasionally updates me via a fake Facebook profile just to share the tea, the fallout was of nuclear proportions. When Caleb confronted Jessica about emailing me, a massive physical fight broke out. The cops were called to their house. Jessica filed for divorce the next day. Because my parents had co-signed the mortgage on Caleb and Jessica's severely underwater house, the divorce forced a sale that left my parents on the hook for nearly $80,000 in negative equity. My mom tried to drain Dad's retirement account to cover Caleb's legal fees and the house debt, which finalized my dad's decision to officially divorce her. Mom is now living alone in a rented apartment, completely alienated from her friends because the absolute embarrassment of her perfect golden boy getting divorced due to cheating again became public knowledge in their small town. Caleb is currently sleeping on a friend's couch, broke, single, and facing a mountain of debt. Jessica had to move back in with her parents in shame. They tried to force me to be the bigger man and swallow their toxic waste to keep their perfect family illusion alive. In the end, all it took was forwarding one single email to shatter that illusion forever. I am sitting on the porch of my new house in Charlotte, drinking coffee, watching my beautiful pregnant fiancée water her garden. My life is entirely my own. I have peace. And to anyone out there dealing with toxic family members who demand you set yourself on fire to keep them warm, walk away, let them freeze. Top comments. User 1, I hope he cheats on you too. Is greater than, proceeds to literally cheat on her. OP, you aren't just the bigger man, you are a whole prophet. Changing your last name was the absolute ultimate power move. Congratulations on the baby. User 2, the fact that your dad told you to be the bigger man while actively ambushing you with the people who ruined your life. That punch to the jaw was 100% justified. I'm so glad you mailed those screenshots. Jessica really thought she could come crawling back after nuking your life? The audacity is staggering. User 3, your mom is the textbook definition of a narcissistic enabler. She didn't care about your pain. She only cared about her family portrait looking pretty. The karma of them going bankrupt because they co-signed a house for the golden boy is just chef's kiss. Enjoy your peace, Ryan.